Hey, it looks like we just might be live. Hello, everybody, and welcome whether you're watching this live or you're watching this as it's up there in the interwebs recorded. I did a video yesterday. DJ Help does your two-way top cabinets Wolfer distort. Try this. And in this video, what I suggested was that you go into the sub setting, and if it says sub off or no sub, there are a couple of different options. You've got usually it's something like 80 hertz, 100 hertz, 120 hertz, maybe even 150 hertz. Select at least 80 hertz, and that should take the distortion off your sub. Sometimes when you get bass hits, you hear this sound or this popping sound. And I believe the reason this is happening is because your top cabinet is trying to reproduce ultra low bass frequencies, sub bass frequencies that it's not really designed to do. This takes those frequencies out of the equation, and your speaker produces bass and mid bass really well, but it doesn't have to worry about sub bass. And there were some questions that came up. I thought I'd try to address them today, but before I get into the questions, I want to just say a few things. I'm not an audio engineer. I'm not an audio designer. I'm not any kind of audio expert. I am a dumb DJ, as the title suggests. I know enough to be dangerous, and I know enough to get the job done. And when I give explanations on things, I'm trying to give the explanations to people who have no idea that this exists. I'm not trying to give the explanations to anybody who's an audio expert, and I'm not looking to get more information about it. I mean, I like to learn, but I don't want to confuse anybody. But sometimes comments come in and they go into detail that quite frankly makes people's heads explode. They don't understand it. So I try to just give the idiot explanation on things so people can kind of understand the concept and make the change on their system to help prevent the problem from happening. Does that make any sense? Probably not. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it. If you share this video or any of my videos, I'd super duper appreciate that. And if you want to chat in the live stream, just to let me know that you're there, that's cool too. This is a Q&A video, so you can ask questions, and I will do my best to address those questions in this live stream. So, yeah, the first question that came up, and I thought I made it clear in the video, but I probably didn't. This setting that I'm suggesting that you use, 80 to 100 hertz, I mean, whichever you want to do, I recommend 100, especially for smaller cabinets like an 8-inch or a 10-inch cabinet, even a 12-inch cabinet. I recommend 100. You can go 80 if you want, but 100 is where I'd recommend you go. Um, the reason that I'm doing this in the first place, the inspiration for this was we were down at a Chicago DJ meetup. It was really cool. And there was a speaker demo there. And we had just taken the speakers out of the box, they were brand new. And some DJ was playing on these speakers using this DJ's files, and this DJ was running the mixing board, however, or the controller. However, the DJ wanted to run the controller, probably redlining, don't know. But at any rate, we heard some pop in the speakers, and some of the reps are like, well, wait a minute, these speakers, there's something wrong with them. I'm like, wait a minute, did you set any kind of high pass filter on these? Oh no, we didn't do that. So quickly turn them around, went to the subsetting, put them at 80, and problem solved. There was no more pop. And this is something that I would recommend you do regardless if you're using a subwoofer or not. Right? Some people think you just set this if you're using a sub. I'm saying use it regardless. And here's kind of more of an explanation as to why. So when you think about any PA speakers, they're not just exclusively designed for DJs. They're PA speakers. They're designed for speech. They're designed for local rock bands or all kinds of stuff. It's not just about playing EDM through them, right? And compressed audio files like we do as DJs. So if you're doing like speech to these speakers, or you're a local rock band and you're just using tops, you probably don't have to worry about this setting. You can just run them full range. But when you're sending a full range signal to the speakers with compressed audio files like DJs tend to use, anything that was recorded in the last 40 years is, or 30 years is compressed pretty heavily. That's when I think it's a good idea to take that sub bass frequency out of the top. It just helps. Otherwise, you may get distortion because the tops aren't really designed for sub bass. Subwoofers are designed for sub bass. So something like 80 to 100 uh, hertz and below, that belongs to the sub. The sub can reproduce that. It does it well, but the tops don't do it well. So cut it out, get it out of there, and just let the tops do what the tops do well. So anyway, hi Greg, welcome. And he's from Madison, right down the road from me. So thanks for watching. But that's why I did the video, because it came up and it was like, hey, maybe this is worth a video. And just talking about this setting, regardless if you're using a subwoofer or not. Now, if you're using a subwoofer, then you want to make sure the sub is set at the same place. So for instance, if you've got a subset at 100 hertz, set your top at 80 hertz. If you got a subset at 80 hertz, set your top at 80 hertz. That way, the top takes care of 80 hertz and up, the sub takes care of 80 hertz and below, just like the thumbnail suggests on this video that I made yesterday. And I thought actually was pretty good. I thought it was elementary enough where most people would understand it. Excuse me. I'm going to blame Canada's wildfire smoke for these coughs. So, with that being said, let's jump into some of these questions that people were asking. And I may have covered a lot of it already here just by riffing. Let's see. There was one in particular that I really wanted to get into. Here's one right here that I wanted to talk about. I recently did the same tactic to fix a friend's 15 that had an unusual click from the woofer as described. Definitely fixed the issue. It was unusual because it was a brand new speaker out of the box, kind of like what we had. So here's kind of my thoughts on this. I don't believe that this necessarily means one speaker is better than the other. I think some speakers are more tolerant than others just by design, just like some cars are more tolerant than others, even if it's the same make, model, engine, everything else. Some are more tolerant than others. That's okay. They're still only designed to do certain things. And like I said, these are not designed for that low frequency sub bass. So don't ask them to reproduce it. Get it out of there. I think that's the way forward. But yeah, if you've got two identical speakers, one has the problem, one doesn't. This could be a stereo issue. This could just be, I don't know, a weird tolerance issue that one is a little more tolerant than the other. But I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with the speakers. Regardless, you're asking them to do something they're not designed to do. So get rid of that sub bass, and with the compressed audio files you're playing, it's going to make a big difference. So I don't think that's a negative criticism on anybody's speakers if it has that problem. Why am I in black and white? You came late. I'm always in black and white because although I'm 54 years old, I get pimples and blemishes, and my light's terrible down here. So I think I just look better in this I Love Lucy thing with this live camera. I do it on my live streams too. So John Smith, I hope I answered your question on that. By the way, thanks for joining us. And if you haven't hit the like button already, I'd appreciate it. That would be helpful. So 10 people in here, 2 likes. Come on, you can do better than that. Hit the like button. That's all I'm asking. Not asking for your money, just asking for your likes. That would be cool. So that's my take on that. And there are a lot of things in here where people were asking questions that I felt like I'd covered, but apparently not well enough here. Questions. Say that I'm using a sub connected to an external mixer. Would I still use the top's DSP and set it to sub, even though the top speaker is not linked to the sub? Wouldn't I set it to sub off since it's not linked, it doesn't matter. So here, I want to just say this because this is a little confusing. Before we started seeing a lot of DSP on speakers, when they were just like, knobs and buttons and stuff, sometimes you had a high pass filter button, sometimes you didn't. But regardless, on the subwoofer, typically the way it worked was if you plugged a powered subwoofer in and send a signal to it, it was going to be roughly 100 hertz and below. That was kind of the low pass filter setting by default, right? Still that way. But the thing about the old subs was a lot of times the output of the sub had a high pass filter in it of 100 hertz and above. So the signal going out was crossed over and you didn't have to do anything to the top. If you ran the top as it was full range. If you ran it through a powered subwoofer, that output was already crossed over, and you were not setting any sub frequencies to the top. That was the old school way of doing things. On everything I've seen with the built-in DSP, where you go back there and you have a menu and you see the option for sub to say whether you have it or not and all that, the signal is full range coming out of the subwoofer. It is not crossed over. In the old days, yeah, things that I had did that. But nowadays, no. There are independent crossover frequencies for low pass in the sub and high pass in the top. The signal going out is not crossed over. So you still have to cross over the top. That I will say, and I hope that made sense to some of you. Some people think that it's still that way. Signal out of the sub is just crossed over at whatever the sub's crossed over at. Low pass filter in the sub, high pass filter in the output. Nope, not anymore. It's independent. Why? I don't know. I'm not a speaker engineer. I'm not an audio engineer. I don't know why they did it that way, but they did it that way. So keep that in mind. It's a through signal out of these newer subwoofers. You still have to go into the top and you have to set the crossover point. If you are not running a sub, you set the crossover point. If you are running a sub, but you are running a sub independently somehow through a different output or whatever for volume, it doesn't matter. You still need to cross them over. Just do it. Just cross them over. It's the way to go. Whether or not you're running a subwoofer, do this. It's going to make your speaker happier. And like I said, some speakers are more tolerant than others, granted. But regardless, asking a top cabinet to reproduce sub-bass frequencies isn't fair because it doesn't do that very well. Subs do it very well. Tops don't do it very well. There's that. I hope that made sense. And again, this is Q&A. So you guys can ask questions in the chat, aside from the black and white thing. The film noir version, yeah, exactly. Correction. The excursion of the subwoofer forward on the bass noise was hitting the dent in the grill. Did I miss something? You know what? Again, why is it doing this? Why is this excursion on the woofer doing this? I can theorize about this all day. I don't know. I'm just a dumb DJ. I just know that this fixes the problem. Do I have kind of an idea? Yeah, I have kind of an idea, but it doesn't matter. This is the explanation that I can give without confusing people any more than I probably already have. There are some of you out there who understand this better than I do, and that's great. And you can tell everybody about it in the comment section. I just don't want to confuse people who don't know about this. This is just something that's going to help them out. Let's go back to the questions here. And let's see. What do we have? Okay, this was an odd one that I got. And this is one of those things that came through that I kind of didn't understand why this comment was even posted. When you discuss mid bass, I can tell you a story about what happened to my 12-inch drivers when I carefully EQ'd out anything below 100 hertz and boosted the 115, 125 to kick out the kick. I did not overdrive the mixer or amp. And guess what happened? The driver tore, paper ripped all around the edge. I don't know why that happened to you. Um, and it sounds like kind of a weirdo, unusual situation. Again, just do what I suggest to do. I think it's going to help you out. Don't let anybody's comments scare you. Otherwise, don't let them freak you out. Don't let them confuse you. There's a lot of that in my comment sections. I'll say something, and people will try to give a more in-depth explanation. It's helpful sometimes. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they're right. Regardless, I try not to put false information on this channel. I just try to give you the Reader's Digest skinny on things to get you by, and hopefully it helps someone. Let's see. Okay, so Greg had a problem where he had an excursion on the sub, and he took the grill off, and it helped it. For me, the fix was to take the grill off, knock out the dent, and put it back on. Yeah, if you have a dented grill and your sub is somehow hitting the grill, yeah, that's a problem. We're assuming your speakers are not damaged, and this is helpful to just change that frequency. It just is. I mean, we're assuming everything's in good working condition, and there's no damage to the cabinet or the grill. This is helpful. And if you're just joining us, thanks for joining us. Feel free to leave a question in the comments, and I'll try to answer it for you. And if you could hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. 10 views, 3 likes. What's up? Come on, hook a guy up. I'm not asking for your dough. I'm asking for your likes. Like my video. I'm here to help you. Let's see here. What else do we got? Another thing to check is the latency setting when you use your software. Generally, the lower latency, the better, depending on what your laptop can handle. I'm not aware of any kind of latency settings that are going to change any of this. Again, not an audio engineer, not a software expert. Latency to me is more of a thing where it's a timing thing. That's the latency. You know, how responsive is your software to your hardware kind of thing. I wasn't aware that it would make any difference on your sub. Maybe it does. I don't know. Or on your woofer or your frequencies that are coming out. I don't know. Not an audio engineer, just a dumb DJ. Like I thought I made perfectly clear in not only the title, but the thumbnail of this video. I'm an idiot. I know just enough to be dangerous and hopefully get the job done. But this definitely does help if you do what I suggest, I think. And again, I don't think that's negative criticism on the speakers. Any speaker that you need to do this to, you're just asking a speaker to do something it wasn't designed to do if you don't do this. I can't stress that enough. Not a negative criticism on the speaker itself. Some speakers are more tolerant than others, but that's okay. I mean, if you're getting wicked good mid-bass from a top, and some of these tops are kicking out some beautiful mid-bass, imagine just trying to ask it to do more than just mid-bass and throw sub-bass in there. The woofer itself is going to get confused, and it's going to be trying to do too many things, and it's not going to do either one of them very well. And the other thing I will mention is that you will not miss the lack of sub-bass from your top if you cut that frequency out. You're not going to miss it. I mean, sub-bass is more vibration than anything else. Yes, it's audible, you can hear it, but up in the air, you don't need it up in the air. I mean, typically you have subwoofers on the ground, and they do a really good job down there. And that's where the sub frequencies are best reproduced, I think, for what we do. So, yeah, don't worry. If you do this, don't think you're getting less from your speaker. You're actually getting more, because it's going to be able to produce those mid-bass frequencies even better without having to worry about the occasional sub-bass frequency coming in that no one's going to hear anyway. It's just going to confuse the woofer and make the woofer try to do too many things at once. And when you're in a three-way system and you cross it over, hey man, that's the ultimate. You know, let's just use the 100 hertz rule. So 100 hertz and above up here, producing it very well. 100 hertz and below, producing it very well down here. Beautiful. I mean, that's a true three-way. That's good stuff. That's what you want. If you run the top full range and cross over the bottom, you're getting some overlapping of frequencies being reproduced by the different speakers, and that's probably not a good thing. And your top isn't as efficient as it should be because it's trying to do too many things that it doesn't have to do. So just cross it over regardless. Just do that. Unfortunately, if you're running something like, let's say, an Evolve 50 or an Evolve 30M, I don't know about the 70s and the 90s, but I can tell you that the Evolve 50 and the 30M does not have the option to do a high-pass filter. It's full range all the time. It's full range frequencies, and you can't change that. It's unfortunate. The only way you can change it, the only way you can do this, is if you can find a subwoofer that has a crossover output to go to that speaker. So what I mean by that is, like I was saying before, the newer speakers, you cross over, anything that I mess with, you cross over the sub and you cross over the top independently because it's full range coming out of the sub. The old speakers, like I said, sometimes the output was crossed over for you, high pass filter out. That you can do. I've got an FPT subline speaker that has the output crossed over for a high pass filter of 100 or whatever it happens to be. Maybe it's 80, I don't know. But I do have one that does that. You could also get an electronic crossover and put it in the audio chain if you wanted to, but nobody does that kind of stuff anymore. Most of us don't run any rat gear. But at any rate, phone call. Hold on just a second. Let me take this. Yes. Hello. Yeah, the usual is fine. Sure. All right, thanks. Bye. Taking my dinner order. So anyway, any questions? Any answers? Anything that I can address down here in the comment section? I don't see anything so far. But yeah, I'm here for Q&A. If you guys have anything, if you're watching live and you want to ask a question, I'm happy to answer it for you, even if it's not particularly on this topic. Happy to answer it for you. But if there's not, that's okay too. We can end the live stream. I just want to get that out there. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're using a sub or not. Your subwoofer is not typically going to be sending out that crossover signal for you, so you have to do it in the top itself. Unless you're using an older thing or something a little more boutique, like the FPT. If you're using QSC or if you're using Pioneer or Electro Voice or JBL or whatever, typically, the new stuff, typically you've got to cross over both in the top and in the sub. And yeah, regardless if you're using the sub, cross that over. You're going to be happy. The audience is going to be happy. You're not going to hear that distortion. So we'll end this live stream. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your likes and your comments and all that kind of fun stuff. We'll see you next time. Practice and enjoy.